Hello and welcome to Predictocast, the podcast where we predict the plot of a movie we know nothing about. I'm Josh, and with me, as always, is Skinner.
That's right. It's Brian fucking Skinner.
Skinner, like that. It feels like that. There's a sharpness to that name.
How sharp would you say that name would be?
It's Razor Sharpe.
Has you ever come across a movie, and I'm sure you have with what we do here, where one character walks on screen and you know exactly what movie you're in for? To me, this movie, the movie within a movie's director shows up on screen wearing this big maroon shirt and khaki shorts, and they put no thought into the fact how this guy was going to look on film. I knew exactly what this movie was.
That's right. We're talking about Razor Sharpe from 2001, I think.
By the amount of tight black shirts and tight to the throat necklaces, I would say 2001.
Well, IMDb says 2001, so I'm gonna assume 2001. However, you wouldn't know because if you watched through the entirety of the credits, at the end it says copyright 2021.
Do you think he keeps releasing this, hoping that somehow it will find an audience, that it will speak to somebody? Maybe it's like 10 minutes longer every single time.
I mean, in the mini episode last week when we gave our predictions on what we thought the movie would be, he is not in fact a convenience store owner or a salesman who likes to slash his prices. I think we did talk about the fact that there are two versions of this on Amazon Prime, one that you can watch and one that you cannot. And we kind of maybe speculated that, like, oh, does he just release it, different names or different dates or whatever to try to trick people? We've seen that happen with other movies before. And yeah, because there is one that is not available that's 2007. And then there's the one that is available that says 2001, and then the credits of that one say 2021. So who knows when this movie came out? It exists outside of time.
It is all times. It is no time. I mean, Carlos's hair is of it's of 1996, I would say. So that kind of throws everything off a little bit as well.
Yeah. This is okay. So. We were not anywhere close to what this movie was in our episode last week talking about this thing. It is about a guy who he is an actor. He's trying to be an actor, but he fails at this big break role that he has. And then he gets caught up in a plot where he believes that a movie is being shot, but it turns out it's just him actually killing people and stealing stuff from a gang leader. And
then the rest of the movie is the results of that happening.
Yeah, but it sets up our main character to be a complete and utter buffoon, like right at the beginning, to think that this is something that's going to happen. It's actually like something that they don't give him the chance. He never questions it. He just goes along with it. I guess maybe it's a critique on like people seeking fame and they're willing to do anything and they're willing to look the other way to get ahead in this crazy business that is Hollywood.
This movie has a couple of weird ideas of what stunt people would actually do if you paid them.
Yes,
especially at the end. But God,
they just turn into killers.
I mean, they didn't have to throw that line in where he identify where he got all these video game killers from, but he says it's stunt workers that he knows that are tired of pulling their punches.
They're ready to murder. Man, I love being a stunt man and making sure that I can, continue to make a living doing what I love and making sure that no one gets hurt in these things. But man, I would just really love to actually kill someone sometime.
Fall from a ceiling and just really try to murder someone. When we get to the ending, I promise you what we're talking about happened in this movie. Like, I promise you what happened. My biggest buffoon moment for our friend Justin Sharpe, which is the name of the character. I mean, his name is Justin Sharpe, yet everyone just calls him Justin. So this movie should be called Razor Justin. Everyone should have been going, "Damn you, Sharpe!" But no, everyone's like, everyone, the bad guys, the good guys, everyone just calls him Sharpe, calls him Justin, and then the big bad guy who dies off screen calls him Karate Kid. He is apparently a gigantic failure. This was his chance for a big break. He did not get it. He lives in a room with no furniture. He is a complete loser. They talk about how he has no money for anything. He goes to a cafe. He can't buy anything, right? Why the fuck does he have this car?
I don't know, man. I was wondering. So let's start at the beginning. We get a couple different production company logos: Action Silver Entertainment, Maximum Entertainment. We also get a quote from the writer, director, star, producer at the beginning of the film. And I need to read this out to you. So, because it's pretty great. So, our destiny is not by chance, it's by choice.
So in this case, Justin Sharpe's everything that happened to him was by choice.
Well, and then, so it has that quote and it has his name under there, Troy N. Ashford. So you're like, okay, I don't know who that is yet because I'm seeing this movie for the first time. But honestly, though, if you're seeing this movie, you are probably either seeking it out because you heard about it, or you are in Troy Ashford's family and he's making you watch it, so you know who he is. But then that screen goes away and it says, in quotes, "I made my choice." And then outside of quotes, it says, "The saga begins."
So in theory, this is just the first chapter in Justin Sharpe's journey that we're going to follow.
There's going to be a sequel at some point.
Well, since it just came out in 2021, I mean, it could come out any day now.
There's still time. Although he does have that movie that came out a couple years ago called Unkillable, that could be something, but I think it's a different character. So it
made it a spiritual sequel.
Yes, it's probably a spiritual sequel. I'm hoping. We might have to watch that because it's got not only does it have Troy Ashford back as writer, director, and star, but it's also got Tom Sizemore and Fred Williamson.
I mean, at least he got two other. There's no one. There's no one in this movie who can act. There's not one person.
No one you've ever heard of, and also no actors.
There's this great gimmick this movie does where, like, this movie throws, if you've ever played like a beat 'em up for the arcades where they're trying to take your quarters and 1,000 people in the same outfit come after you at once. This movie does that to a degree and in different costumes, but like some of them wear like black ski masks and black sweaters and black pants. Like they're like either a mixture between a cat burglar and a ninja, right?
Yeah.
And some of them simply don't at the same time. And I assume that was so they could recycle the same people, but put them under masks.
I thought so too. But then you look at the credits and there's a shit ton of people credited as thugs and ninjas.
If Troy Ashford, I haven't looked it up because IMDb doesn't show a whole lot for him. If he actually is, he either hired every single person and every single buddy he has at the gym, or he hired, I thought like, okay, maybe he hired all the stunt workers he's worked with. Like he's an actual stunt worker. But then when some of the ninjas and attackers come at the end, they clearly cannot do anything. They're just people he knows. And everyone he knows is in this movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Everybody that he knows is in this movie. His like sensei or his teacher, his karate master is one of the villains in the movie. And like he helped him like choreograph all the fights.
That he's terrible then. I can't it is like this movie has a lot of fight. If you want to go watch a movie that has a lot of fights, this movie has a lot.
And I would say that they are filmed not well, but they are executed well. Like, I feel like Troy Ashford kind of knows what he's doing.
I feel like he knows.
It could be way worse than it is.
I feel like he kind of knows what he's doing, but like 64% of the people he's fighting really don't.
Fair, but that's what I'm saying is I think that he knows enough to try to make it look better than it might look if he didn't know anything. Because like there's a couple fights, especially early on in the like when he's first committing the crime that spins all this stuff out of control. There's a fight that he has with a guy that's kind of decent, and it's like it feels like both of them know what they're doing. But yeah, the majority of the guys he's fighting are just random people that he just met at the gym, I guess.
There's a fight where a bunch of guys with sticks come after him.
Oh, the kendo sticks. The guys in the training gear.
No, that's the end. That's the guys who are actually doing legitimate.
Oh
kendo.
yes,
but like he comes out of
the
a
guys
building,
with the sticks in the business courtyard.
Yes, and they chase him across the street with each holding 2 sticks. It is the funniest fucking thing I have seen in a long time.
Okay, so this is definitely one of the most amateurish, low budget movies we've ever done on Predictocast.
And we've done like a lot of
doubt.
movies that we're pretty sure people made to show their family at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but this is definitely one of the like most amateurish things I've probably ever watched.
I mean, I kind of wish he had to use film because he may not have made it 4 hours long if he did.
It's only like 93 minutes.
There's not a thing.
It doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be. It can be 75.
There's not a thing he shot he didn't put in this movie.
Oh yes, for sure. Everything that he shot is in here. Much to the detriment, I think, because there were things he should have shot and didn't shoot.
I mean, you would think he would shoot the scene where the pretty much the ultimate villain would have died on screen, but instead we get a dream sequence with Sea-Doo fighting.
That sequence is pretty great, by the way.
I feel like that's a scene that he couldn't figure out how to put in the movie, and he just shoved in.
Yes. So let's talk about this.
Okay, I want to. Here's how I want to explain our main character. We have Justin Sharpe. Yes, he's a stunt worker. He's a man who's never seen a neck hole of a shirt that he likes. He has so many ugly, gigantic shirts that he has ripped the neck hole open on in this movie. And this is a man who at one point is invited to a fancy cafe dinner. And the woman who I think he's supposed to kind of like shows up dressed to the nines like she's going to an Oscar.
She's overdressed for this.
She's overdressed. He's wearing a windbreaker and a backwards cap.
And we know that he has all of these shirts with no neck holes because they change from scene to scene and shot to shot sometimes.
It's incredible. And every single one, I like every time a different shirt showed up, sometime in mid scenes, I was like, I appreciate this shirt. It's so great. He's got multiple different like if you were trying to figure out what city this is shot in, based on what NFL team he was wearing at any particular time, you would be completely confused because he would be wrong. Them all.
He does before he goes to have a big showdown. He does put on a Panthers shirt, but this movie took place in Georgia, so.
And Georgia knew it took place here because there's so many people in the backgrounds of scenes just watching them try to make a film on the sidewalk.
So we open with this action sequence happening in this like broken down building where the end of the movie takes place. I liked that little synergy there.
You mean the warehouse?
Go back. Yes, warehouse. But I remember it specifically being the same place because it has this weird like stage thing in the background in a corner. And we see 2 guys fighting with a bunch of random like toughs. One of them is Rick Cooper, our main action star. And he's being supported by our friend who we'll soon learn is Justin Sharpe. They're fighting all these guys. Justin Sharpe catches an arrow at one point during the scene, and this pisses off Rick Cooper because he feels like Justin is showing him up. He feels like this guy's coming in here and he's trying to take my spot. And this is when he takes the director outside, the guy in the big maroon shirt that you already mentioned, and gets pissed off and basically says, you need to fire this guy, and you need to fire him in front of everybody so that they know not to piss me off or not to like, step on my toes because I'm in charge here. Yeah, and then the director fires him outside in front of no one.
Yet they continually tell us late throughout the rest of the movie that he was fired in front of everybody.
Yes. I mean, this is technically everybody because that's all that's in the movie.
That's true. This is where he calls himself Rick fucking Cooper. This is the thing. Like this is a believable situation.
Sure.
Where an action star would be upset of a stunt worker or a side character trying to one up them. They are like action hero movie stars are legitimately terrified of not looking amazing.
That's why you have the whole contract clauses in a lot of these big guys, things like The Rock and Vin Diesel and stuff with the whole Fast Five and Fast and Furious stuff, where neither of them can be shown to lose. And that's why they don't like each other or something. I've heard all these rumors about like all these contract clauses that they have where it's like, I can't lose a fight. It's so lame.
It's much like wrestling. Movies are fake, but fine. You know somebody in your life who takes this stuff very seriously, thinks the star makes the movie, and thinks they're only as tough as their character is in the last movie they watched. That is legitimately, people are that stupid. But so this is a very, almost terribly acted, but a legitimate thing you could see happening. And the fact that it spins out into the next 93 minutes is incredible. Like where Rick Cooper is going to try to ruin his life beyond belief.
Yes, that's so wild.
And Justin thinks that Cooper is his friend based on nothing.
They have no like camaraderie. They have no like connection that we see. We just hear him say it. Like it would be one thing if they'd had a scene at the beginning, but then you couldn't do the reveal that it does where it's like, oh, this is just a movie. Like there should have been something where like, I don't know, like maybe you build up to it, like where it's something happens and then it's revealed that it's a movie. And then you get like a scene of Rick talking to Justin going like, hey, that was pretty good. But remember, I'm this guy, I'm supposed to do this thing and don't do this. And then you kind of like build it and then he loses it. And then it's like, then it becomes this whole thing. And then it turns out Rick is also involved in like drug trafficking and other shit too. So
it's so funny that we know Rick is the bad guy from the start because all the other bad guys mention that he's their leader. And then they do a Dr. Claude reveal later.
Yes.
It's incredible.
There's some things that are completely out of order, I think, because like the cops seem to know that Justin is involved, and I was like, oh, they must have seen the tape. But then later they go, oh, we saw a tape, and you're like, wait, why did you know that he was involved before you saw the tape?
Why are the cops in this movie?
I don't know. They don't do anything. They just sit in a car and they get beat up later.
Yeah, like there's this whole sets them up to show up at the end and help. They get out of a car and they get beat up with like Mortal Kombat uppercuts. There's so much that doesn't make sense in this movie, but it's incredible.
Yeah, so Justin gets fired and he gets upset and he goes out and he gets in his red Corvette with taillights covered with like this plastic with letters showing so that when his taillights light up, it says pure hell on it.
Why does he have this car? I assume this is his actual car.
It is, but he doesn't have the taillight covers later on. You see the car later. He drives a different car at one point, and then he drives
has a
this
red
car
Porsche
again,
later
but
at the end.
But he doesn't have the little covers on there. So I don't know. This guy seems to be doing all right if he's driving this car around.
He's driving this fucking expensive ass car. He spends the entire movie trying not to get caught by anybody, driving the most obvious car on the planet.
Yeah, that feels like that's a car that he should have gotten at the end of the movie or something. Like he steals that from a bad guy.
Yes, why does he own it? He's supposed to be poor because he goes back to his is this a house or an apartment?
It's an apartment.
He goes to his apartment with his roommate who
Well, before we get to his apartment, though, he drives off and it's just pure hell. And then we get the credits, which are glorious, like high definition stock footage. And I wonder if this is what he went back to redo this year in 2021. Like, did he go back in?
This didn't exist back then.
And put new stock footage credits in, because the footage is great. Like, it looks really crisp and clear, and it's all like aerial stock footage and cars driving around in the city. So you can totally tell, like, this is not what they shot. It still has the bad Windows Movie Maker credits pop up on screen and fade away, though. But yeah, it's very jarring when it goes from crystal clear HD footage to this low grade like mini DV tape when he pulls into his driveway.
Like, it's not like today, like we've watched some modern film to video movies they look like home movies because they're 1080p, but they look like shit because you've done nothing to do to filter you've made no choices on how the footage is going to look. It just looks like your uncle shot it, right? Yeah. This is 2001. Yeah. Like, this is shot on like some like, you know, Kodak for kids, Hot Wheels camera.
Well, and there is that one point where during the middle of that, the first big action scene where he's working with the bad guys, the footage just changes completely, and it looks like it's filmed on like a webcam.
What flavor of iMac do you think he edited this movie on?
Oh man, no! This was not edited on an iMac.
Well, the big ones with the colors on the side.
No, this is his Windows 98 PC.
Windows 95.
Windows NT he was using to edit this thing.
He borrowed a disc. It's not even an authenticated copy.
Yeah, he goes home to his house or apartment. We only see one room, so who's to say what it is, whether it's an apartment or a house?
The emptiest room in movie history. I've never seen anything like this. So we see both sides eventually, but at first it's just an empty room with a window, beige carpet, and your great aunt's couch.
Yes,
it's this pink floral couch. And it's a 2.5 butt couch. That's it. That's all that's in the room. That's all you see for about half the movie. Later, before this character, his roommate disappears from the movie, we see the other side, which has a fireplace. And on the fireplace mantle is a small TV sitting on the ground and a shelf with weapons on it, a few swords and workout stuff. That is it. That is the whole room. That's what he lives in. And he has an amazing car.
We never see outside of this. We never see his bedroom. We never see like upstairs, because it looks like there might be stairs, but it's hard to tell. It's very strange. We never see a kitchen, anything. But he goes in, and Charles, his roommate, is hiding behind the wall like Kato and the Green Hornet or something, and he jumps out and like starts trying to attack him and train him, and he just throws Charles onto a couch.
It's so funny because at this point, and for the next 30-ish minutes, this is Tim Murray, a comedian, as his roommate. It's almost like the movie has a comedic sidekick.
Yeah.
But nothing else about the movie takes itself anything but deadly serious except for the main villain.
Yeah.
And once he's out of the movie, that tone is gone. Yeah. But like, he seems super important at this point. He's his roommate. He's in every scene for the longest time. And like, he's always there. He's talking 100 miles a minute. He's making cracking jokes. He's busting Justin's chops. Justin has no retorts because he's as wooden as possible. And it's just this small guy taking his shirt off. He's trying to do bad kung fu at him. He's just going on, and then he's fucking out of the movie.
We don't know if he's dead, alive. It's something. He talks to him. He's like, "Oh, what's wrong with you?" And Justin tells him, "Oh, I got fired today." And he's like, he doesn't understand how that happened,
because Rick Cooper is his best friend.
Yeah, Rick Cooper's my best friend, and why would he do that to me? And I don't understand. I was doing great. I did something really cool. I caught an arrow. They weren't expecting that, and they were pretty surprised. And Charles is like, Rick Cooper has got an ego bigger than my dick, and you know how big that is. And this leads to a running gag of them talking about how big or small Charles's dick is.
That's what this movie is for a while, and then it is not.
Yeah, then it's not that.
Like I legitimately think this is one of those movies where he filmed it over a long period of time.
Yes,
and he only had access to certain actors for some of it. Not as long as some of the movies we've watched where it took places over decades, but
yes.
I think he just no longer had Tim Murray at some point.
Yeah, or he just couldn't come back. So he wrote it in that like once he gets kidnapped, he's just gone.
They could have had him dead on the carpet next to a couch in a room like that other character.
Yes, they could have. So he, Justin's upset, but he gets a call. He goes to his agent's office in a scene that was not necessary and could have been a phone call. He shows up. The guy goes, "You're fired," and then he leaves.
Okay, I appreciated this place had furniture.
Yeah,
and he calls it his office. It's clearly the kitchen. He's got all these great VHSs on a shelf, and Justin is gone for 0.3 seconds before he calls Cooper to tell him that he fired him.
Yeah,
it makes Justin seem so stupid.
Well, it's weird too because the agent, he calls Rick and he's like, "Yeah, he's gone. I fired him. What did he do? I want to know what happened." And then you never hear Rick's side. You just see this guy go, "Oh, really? Wow. Okay." And that's it.
It's the worst fake phone call you've ever seen.
What would Rick have said in that situation? He caught an arrow. Oh, okay. I see why you want to fire him now.
Even if he said like he tried to show me up on set, it would have taken longer.
Yeah.
Like the amount of time he took saying it, he could have said 4 words at most. At most. And then the casual mugging happens.
Yeah, the casual mugging, I guess they're trying to set up here that this area is just full of crime and violence.
Is that why they only have a couch?
I guess. Charles is leaving the house when he gets grabbed by a guy in a ski mask. And they just kind of stand there for a little while. And I love how Justin comes up. He's devastated, obviously, from getting let go by his agent and getting fired from this big break that he was going to have. And he sort of just does "Oh, Charles, I didn't see you there."
I think it's supposed to be funny, but Justin's not funny. Like ever.
It is a joke line, and I sort of give them credit, I guess, for that. I mean, I laughed because it's just delivered so strangely, but eventually he does kick the guy in the face and get him away from Charles, and they just leave him on the ground outside.
Yeah, he never goes anywhere. Well, I mean, this is a movie where they leave dead bodies in the street for fucking days, from what I can tell.
And then we get a nice workout montage.
Wow, it's really long too.
It's very long, and it's also got weird like staccato stuttered editing on it because it's like when you try to slow down like tape footage, it doesn't properly slow down, so it like feels very jerky, and that's what the entire montage of him working out is. So it's very, very strange. And then we cut to him at home in like a super deep tank top where you can see most of his chest. And he's got these, I don't know what these are. There's some sort of weird like 90s like crazy health thing, but he's got these metal rings on his wrist that he's sitting there just kind of doing meditation, but I don't know what they are. They're like big, thick metal rings.
I think he's doing like gravity training like Goku.
Maybe.
It's very, I mean, it's one of those things that like I looked at it like, that's weird, but I could believe that happened back then. We didn't know shit. We never know shit.
Yeah.
Like look at CrossFit people. We never know shit. Look at fitness influencers doing sit-ups in fountains. They don't know shit. People always do stupid shit.
Oh, that's what they are. They are, I looked them up. They're called iron rings. They're heavy metal rings used in martial arts for various training purposes.
Cool.
So,
and then Sonic the Hedgehog wants them very badly.
Yes. So he's sitting there doing this meditation, doing this training with his iron rings. And also there's a Coke bottle sitting there. Got to stay hydrated. And he gets a phone call, and someone on the other end asks to meet him somewhere. And so he's like, yeah, sure, I can do that. It feels like it's the middle of the night when he's sitting there, but the next scene is broad daylight. I don't know if it's the next day. I don't know if it's the same day. I think it's the same day, though, because he says he ate earlier and she's on her way to the theater. So it's almost dinner time. So I don't know what time it's supposed to be, even though it is broad daylight outside, probably noon. And he goes to this, I thought it was a park, but it turns out it's a restaurant. And a woman shows up in a white limo in a very impractical dress. And this is Daria, who apparently was in the movie that he just got fired from.
I mean, we have no evidence of that, but they
We
were
don't.
told that. Like, it would have been easy to put her in a scene there, but I'm not sure they had her for very long.
Yeah, so she, I guess, is also Rick Cooper's girlfriend.
Well, she said she's nobody's property, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, good for her. Like, she is right in that, but
She
think
is setting him up to for what's happening next.
Yeah, so I don't understand. Like, she's sort of flirting with him a little bit, because she says she's going off to the theater, and she says, I'm not Rick's girl, or I'm not his possession or anyone else's. And he's like, so who are you going to who are you spending the night with? And she's like, that's none of your business. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to pry. And she's like, would that be so bad if you did? And it's like, what is this scene?
I mean, maybe he saw her his giant windbreaker and was just taken with it.
Well, also during the scene, you can tell kind of how, maybe this is early on or something, but maybe how uncomfortable this guy might be having to do this kind of a scene, because throughout the entire scene, he's just rolling a salt shaker around in his hands.
It's character work, Josh.
I mean, if he had brought a salt shaker back later and thrown it in someone's face, I'd be like, good, that's some good development.
Well, I mean, this is the guy whose main move is throw what's in his hand at the person and then punch the person. It happens like 19 times in this movie.
Yes. So she sets up here that she knows, she basically tells him first that she's sorry that he got fired. But she knows of this low budget feature that's starting up that could use someone who can do what he does. She doesn't know much about it. She doesn't know who's directing it or anything else, because he wants to know all this information. But she's like, all I know is a number that you can call. So you should call them and see if you can get this thing going. And he's like, all right, fine, I'll do that. She leaves, gets into the limo, and is in an entirely different outfit at this point.
Entirely different outfit. And this is it's one of my favorite scenes in the movie, because she goes in the limo and there's another guy, another lackey there, big dude, a lot of big dudes in this movie. Says to ask her, like, did you tell him the stuff? And she's like, yes. And he goes, do you say what Rick told you to say? And he's like, yeah, I did it. So she's kind of in on it, right? And then he goes, Rick told me to give you this, and he grabs her face and she goes, whoa. It is the most, like, there's so many ways they could have done this that weren't him actually grabbing her face.
And then he breaks her neck, right?
Well, he pushes her down, but then we later see her.
I think you hear a neck break, because
I was still so distracted by the fact that he basketball palmed her entire face. Like in real life, this actress.
I think he breaks her neck, and then he goes, drive on. And then the limo drives away.
And then they drop her dead body next to a couch, and it's somebody's.
Okay, so I was kind of confused, because I didn't know for sure if she was dead. And then later, when he finds her body,
they don't
I was
show
like,
her.
Oh, is she really dead? And then that other woman shows up, who's named Diana, who looks sort of similar to the other actors. And I was like, wait, is this supposed to be that she was okay? And then he goes to her grave later, and I was like, okay, she's dead.
Her grave that appears to be 20 years old.
Belongs to someone else. And then he almost knocks over when he gets up from the ground.
When did this entire funeral and like headstone and everything get put in? This movie appears to take place over 3 days.
So Justin is home. He's prepping for his role in this mysterious action movie that he knows nothing about. He and Charles have like a back and forth kind of funny conversation here about Charles is being lazy. Charles doesn't have a job because he doesn't want one. And that Justin is just intimidated by Charles's manhood. And he pulls his like robe off, and he doesn't have a shirt on, but you can't see like his legs in the shot, or you can, but it's from behind, so you think that he might be naked, and they just didn't like frame it well, so you can see the guy's pants. And I was like, oh, this is weird that he's showing his friend his dick, but then you cut to the front, and he's wearing pants, so it's like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this?
I don't know. It's like the artful skill of shooting a lovemaking scene where we see the back of a woman's bare back, but you make sure to shoot everything so we know that everyone is still wearing pants and shoes,
and also soundtrack it with the crinkling of paper.
We'll get there.
So Justin insults Charles by saying that his dick is very small, and then he leaves, and Charles spends, I don't know, 7 minutes talking to his dick and reassuring it.
I mean, it's very necessary to the plot of the movie. This character who doesn't have many scenes left after this.
No, I think he has one more scene, and then he's gone.
He gets kidnapped, and he's never that concerned that he's being kidnapped, by the way.
No. So Justin goes into the city, and he shows up at this spot and meets these guys that he's supposed to be working with. One of them is kind of standoffish to him. The other is sort of this cocky guy. And he says, like, hey, if you told me what we were doing, I could have rehearsed it a little bit better, and like I could be more prepared. And the guy's like, no. I like it to be very spontaneous and spur of the moment. So I want it to feel very like natural. And so they kind of head downtown. We see a bunch of other random guys with guns show up and kind of wander around. And this makes no sense, because what does he think he's doing? What does Justin think he's supposed to do?
I don't know. So there's two ways this works. He would see one person shooting him, and he's been on such a low budget film sets that he thinks one guy with a small camcorder is all you need for a movie.
Well, okay, we're supposed to think that this is the low budget one, that the Rick Cooper one is the big budget movie.
Yes. Two, because in this world, when you're shot, and I'm talking about the world of this movie, that it's not the movie in the movie, but in the world of this movie, when you're shot with a gun, you don't bleed. So when he actually kills people, he can't tell the difference, because he has a short blunderbuss, like a small one-handed sawed-off shotgun, not a pistol, a big-ass shotgun, and he's shooting people from the hip at point blank range, and they're supposed to be literally dead, but he can't tell the difference because there's no blood in this world.
He breaks the guy's fucking neck, but he's thinking that he's in a movie.
All these actors with fake necks, and we haven't talked about the two ponytails.
Oh, well, that's the two random guys that show up with the guns.
They have these two glorious, like from Die Hard 1991 ponytails.
They have bad suits on, and they're standing there with machine guns and a suitcase. And we see the guy filming Justin with this little handy cam, and Justin goes up to the suitcase and he says, "Hey, give me the suitcase, man. They're watching. Come on, do this for me." And the guy's like, "Get out of here." And so then he gets into like this big gun battle with them, and he does a pretty impressive jump over the hood of a car, which was pretty, like, it looked like he had a trampoline on the other side of the car to get that much air. It was pretty impressive. And then he gets into a fight with a guy, basically breaks this guy's neck. And he's eventually able to get the suitcase and he gives it to the guy, and then he gets like knocked out by them because he's done what he was supposed to do. It's foolish that that Justin thinks that this is a normal thing.
Considering that, like, this in theory, while the movie with Cooper was his big break, he has filmed movies before. This is his career.
Yes.
I will give Troy Ashford credit that he is, even if he uses it as a trampoline, he is very agile. Considering, I don't know if we made this justice enough. He's fucking gigantic.
Oh yes, he is a big dude.
He's not like a Jean-Claude Van Damme type guy where he's muscular but like all sinew strength and lean, and like a Bruce Lee type, just all muscle, small guy with speed. He's fucking huge. He's all upper body. He should be way too muscle bound to do all the shit he's doing.
Yeah, he's a very big, in shape dude. Like,
he does not appear to be young. The other characters also call him ugly a lot.
I forgot about that.
It's said a lot.
And this is when we get to meet our second villain, who sort of seems like the main villain partially. He's not really the main villain, but he kind of is presented as this big bad guy that we need to be scared of. This English guy who I can't tell if he's doing a fake English accent or if this is actually how he sounds.
I was trying to figure out if he was doing Russian accents at times. He strolls in here in a purple suit top and mustard pants, both 5 times too large. He says, "No one steals my money and lives to spend it. Go!" And he is almost a character who is breaking the fourth wall at times.
Well, oh, you mean when we zoom in very close to his face as he talks directly to the camera?
Well, there's a point where he sees this footage later, and he instantly knows that clearly this was a setup to set up Justin.
Yeah, he still wants to kill Justin, but he knows that it wasn't just him doing it.
He's like, no one would do this unless they were trying to frame this guy. He instantly knows it, but he's also mad at him. He also wants to kill everyone on the planet. But also, there's a point later where, because his people keep getting foiled by Mr. Sharpe's incredible karate, and he goes, "Why do we keep sending karate guys to fight the karate guy? Why aren't we sending them with guns who can just shoot him? Why are we attacking him with sticks and hands? He's better at karate than all my guys. Why are we sending lesser karate guys after the karate guy?" I'm like, do you know you're in a movie?
This is by the way, Stevie Watson, the English crime boss.
I love that he's Stevie. He's not in any of the IMDb credits, and he's significantly in the movie.
Yeah, he's like a major character. But so we cut back to where these henchmen have taken Justin, and they have tied him up, and they are going. They have this scene where the henchmen are fighting over a crossword puzzle. It's very pointless, but silly, because they get very angry at each other to the point where they're pointing guns at each other and ready to kill one another.
Well, guns don't cause blood, so they're not that deadly.
And they show Sharpe what they filmed to show that he's going to be framed for what he did, and it's just the movie that we already saw.
Yes.
Like close-ups in the action. There's no way that this is the footage. I love that's always a thing in movies where it never quite nails what you should be seeing from the point of view of a camera if it's in a specific location. It happens a lot in movies. Some movies get it right, but the majority, it seems like they just don't give a shit. This one just goes out of its way to not give a shit. Like, I'm not filming it twice, so this is what you get.
It's so weird. Like, and then they offer him to join their crew after beating him up some more.
Yeah, they need him to help them with some more crimes that they're going to do. And they say basically, unless he does it, they're going to send the tape to the cops and Stevie Watson. And basically they say you have 2 hours to decide if you're going to join our team. And so he's got to sit there and wait and think about what he's going to do. And we meet our cops finally, Detective Willis and Detective, I don't know the other one.
Nor do I.
Yeah, I didn't look at the credits on the actual thing, like on the actual movie. On IMDb, they only list Detective Willis. I think Detective Griffin might be the other one.
It might be. I mean, I was so struck with how many thugs are in this movie and girl ninjas that I couldn't really notice anything else in the credits.
Well, but I love that they're on the scene and they're standing around the body and they're like, well, we've got 2 dead and no witnesses. I was like, no, there were people everywhere.
Yeah, there's people everywhere. Like, and it feels like there's nothing's taped off. Cars are still going by. There are people just standing behind them, and there's just and there's no one there to greet them, saying like, "Okay, here's all the stuff." So people have just left these dead bodies under sheets and just went about their day until these guys got here.
They do explain that Stevie Watson arrived in town, and he basically consolidated all of the crime under one umbrella that he controlled, and so something is happening where someone's maybe trying to like step in and take his power away. So they feel like there's going to be a big gang war, and they feel like whoever did this to Watson's men, they'll probably have to identify his body later because Stevie Watson is not going to let anybody get away with this.
I mean, this is a character
clever enough.
This is a character Watson. I'll call him Stevie. He's my buddy. Who tells you that he wants everyone on the planet dead every scene he's in. Every single time he's on the camera, he escalates to kill everyone and everyone they know and everyone they know.
Yes.
And they zoom in on his eyes.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Oh, like, Griffin's the big tough who doesn't
that's
who doesn't
right.
speak.
I don't remember the other cop's name then. So,
it's unclear.
As many action scenes as we have in this movie, we cut back to the bad guy's lair, and Justin has just escaped off camera and killed 2 of the guys.
I know. I was so confused at this point. What? Like, it just happened, and then they find his place with Charles with no problems. Like, everything starts to happen just because it happens at this point.
Yeah. So the bad guys go to Charles's place. They want to know where Justin is. They intimidate him. They tell him,
they
we're going to kill
casually
you.
intimidate him. They seem like buddies.
What does he say? He says we can leave here. He's like, all 3 of us can leave here together, and we can go try to find your friend, or the 2 of us can leave here and go wash the blood off our shoes.
And that's the last we see of Charles.
Yeah, and then Charles disappears because we cut to them at their boss's place, who is revealed to be Rick Cooper, even though we know that it's Rick Cooper.
Like his back, he's in a blue and red lit room with his back to in a big chair with his back to the camera, and then he spins around, and we're supposed to be like, oh, it's Rick Cooper. But every character
he have glasses on in this point, so I was like, I don't know who this is.
He had glasses on at this point, and never does again. But like, every character has told us that Rick Cooper's behind it.
Yes. Yeah. It's so stupid. And then Justin tries to call Daria, the woman from the restaurant who set him up. And then he goes to her house and he finds her dead.
Does he see her legs next to a
Yeah. He sees her body sort of on the ground. He's like, I'll find who did this. And then he comes out of her house and is in different clothes.
I think he would know who did it.
You would think that the girlfriend of Rick Cooper came and set you up for something, and it turned out to be bad, and now she's dead. And it's like, oh, well, maybe it's Rick Cooper, the guy who got me fired off of my thing. Like, he never seems to come to grips with the fact that Rick Cooper is the bad guy until the end.
He also never asked where Charles disappeared to.
No, he doesn't give a shit about that. Well, like I said, I have a theory about what happens to Charles, and we'll delve into that here in just a second. But This is when he goes out onto the street and he fights those guys with the sticks.
Yeah, so he fights these guys. Like, there's this idea that they're always trying to find Sharpe, but literally in the movie, they're constantly are finding him from this point on. Like, he is attacked constantly from this point. Like, they're like, we'll just wait for him at his home. We know where he lives now. I'm like, you've attacked him like 6 times. Like, it's not that. Like, are you? Everyone, he's had multiple large battles in the middle of the street in the middle of daytime. Everyone knows where he is. Like, it would be news by this point how many times this guy got into karate fights in fucking everywhere, unless everyone thought he was a busker.
He fights with these guys. It's pretty anticlimactic. He is able to beat them up pretty easily.
It's funny though when they're running across the street and they've got all these 3 guys who have 6 sticks after him, and he's really bad at running. And
then we get a very odd
strip club
scene of a strip club. Why are we at a strip club?
I don't know. Why do we?
Nothing happens there. We just see a woman take her top off while dancing to some weird like rip off Mortal Kombat music.
Yeah, I thought they would have a scene in the strip club. They don't.
No, because then it goes straight from the strip club to Stevie Watson watching the tape that they shot. That's perfectly edited and composed.
And they're like, he's got his second Espo.
Yes.
And he's like, where did you find this tape? Like, someone just gave it to us. We don't know. And he wants Justin to be a human pinata. It's just
okay. So this is when the movie takes a turn, and I was like,
I was so confused at this point.
What is going on? Because Justin is in a house. I don't know which house. It is not his house, as far as we know. He is going through a drawer in a room looking for something. We don't know what he's looking for, whose house this is.
Nothing has been set up that he has to find. Is never been set up that he has to find something as a clue to what he's doing, because he's not trying to solve a mystery.
No. So then a woman comes in and he attacks her before realizing who she is.
You're really underselling how she walks in this pitch black room that is not lit by the camera. And she just walks up and stands beside him saying nothing. And then he attacks her.
But then he stops because he recognizes her, but he never says her name in this scene. And he's like, well, you got to get out of here. You got to go. And we don't know where they are.
The movie acts like
who she is.
The movie acts like we've always known her from this point on.
Yeah, we have no idea who she is. And my theory is that Charles transformed into this woman.
It's the only thing that makes sense.
Maybe he gave some of Charles's dialogue to her later. I don't know. I mean, it's
her
weird.
Character has no consistency.
No, because like sometimes she's sort of like needling him a little bit and like ribbing him about stuff like, oh, you're just complaining all the time, and kind of having the same sort of playful animosity that he and Charles had. And then other times she's like obsessed with him and they're in a relationship or something.
Sometimes she seems like she's not. Is she supposed to be the sister of the other girl?
Oh, maybe that's what it is, but they don't really go out of their way to do that.
He tells the Gray that he will take care of this new girl. And that's when I figured out her name.
Yes, you're right. Maybe they are related, but the movie does not tell you this.
No, and she also seems to know a lot about Cooper and his gang. But
that's why I was confused, because I was like, wait, is this Daria? They just like, she's still alive?
She doesn't have freckles.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But yeah, like it is so this like, and it's gonna get worse for this, but like it is so poorly. She's so poorly brought into the movie that I knew immediately she was a character he would have to have sex with.
Yes,
but like they decided like, okay, we killed out this girl. Oh shit, we need a girl to be kidnapped 3 or 4 more times, including in a dream sequence.
No. Dream sequence is Daria.
What? God damn it.
We'll get there in a second too. So while he's with her, we see these other guys show up to Justin's place, and they steal all of his swords and all of his martial arts weaponry. And they decide that they're going to just wait around and to see when he comes back. It's very funny in that scene, though, where they're sitting in the car waiting outside his place. You can see, I guess, a member of the crew or someone just sitting on the porch outside the house in the background. And so Justin and Diana, I'm just going to say her name because we learn it eventually. They show up at the place and they're arguing kind of playfully about him leaving his car in the alleyway, and he needs to get his keys because he's tired of having to hotwire it. And she's messing with him about how he leaves his car unlocked in an alleyway, and he's complaining, but he still has his car. Like, it's very confusing. I don't understand it at all. But yeah, and there's a big fight here because, of course, the guys show up with the weapons.
They immediately grab her, and then she just she's been this really calm, like, there's no real character trait at this point, but she's just been this, calm person who kind of knows what's going on and kind of like is kind of street toughish, kind of. And this guy grabs her and she just freaks the fuck out and she's like, Justin, just fucking kill him. And it's like, whoa, what?
I mean, he does kill one guy by throwing a knife right into his chest.
That's because the side of the face later, but still.
But yeah, so they get in, they steal a guy's car. He gets his ninja weapons back, and they head off.
We go back to Stevie Watson and Espo for like the 19th time. Is this the okay? This is the scene where they're at the pool edge.
I think so. Yes.
Is the sunbather girl supposed to be dead?
I don't know, but she does not move, and she's in several scenes just lying there.
There's several scenes, and so much happens around him, and so many people are threatened with death, and she never moves an inch. It is so bizarre. Like it's all I could notice.
Like, they talk about his identity, like they know who he is now, like they know that he's an actor.
Well, the agent apparently gave him his address and his name and everything about him.
Yeah, because I guess they sent the guys who got his ninja weapons and who have just been killed. So it would have been nice if this scene had come before that scene. So we'd be like, oh, they sent some guys to him. But no, we already know that they're dead and they failed.
There's no sense of which thugs are working for which people ever.
Yeah. It really is hard to know for sure.
Batman had a really good idea of making sure everyone was themed to their leader.
Yes, that would be helpful if all of Watson's guys were doing bad British accents.
This is where he
Oi, Gov, I got your ninja weapons, eh?
This is where he first threatens Espo.
Oh, yes.
That if Espo fails or his money gets stolen again, he's going to kill Espo.
Mm-hmm. Because he's like, I treated you like a brother, haven't I? Or later, maybe he does the whole Cain and Abel thing, right? Or is it here? They have so many conversations with each other where they say basically the same thing. It's hard to keep them all straight.
It's hard. This is where I finally wrote down, how is this movie so long? Because it felt like it's been going on and running in one spot for like an hour. And it was 50-some minutes in the movie. And there was 40-some minutes left. I'm like, they could wrap it up the next scene. They could literally wrap this movie up the next scene. How is there 45 minutes left? And really, they could have wrapped up the movie in the next scene. A lot happens here, but it all could have been one scene.
Yeah. So Justin and Diana, they end up at this old rundown gym where Justin says he was trained by Mr. Takayama, who is dead, who died a year ago. I was like, oh, are we going to meet some guy who's going to help him? Like, no, that guy's dead. Don't worry about it. And they're sitting there and chatting, and he's talking about how he like loved working out there, and she suggests like maybe you should open this place back up and you should teach people, you should train them, like you'd be really good at it, which is like, oh, that's a viable career path. Like you're good at this stuff. You could open up a school. You could really teach some people, change some people's lives. But he is definitely dead set on being an actor. But during the scene, while he's telling the story, we get these shots of her just gingerly touching his arm in various places with her index finger. Like she's like palpating him.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be they're gonna do their sex scene. It isn't.
No, he says they start kissing, but he's like, no, we shouldn't do this. We should rest. And since we don't know who she is, we don't know why they shouldn't do it.
Yes, if we had a better sense that this was the sister of the girl he liked who betrayed him completely,
yes,
with no remorse and basically played him like a fool.
And it's silly that he has so much care for her since we've had one scene between them.
One scene between them, and when in the car scene before her face gets grabbed and her neck snapped, she seemed like it wasn't like she was tricked into saying that. She seemed completely on board with setting him up.
Yes. So they go to sleep, and then we see this sequence, which I did not understand at first. And they're in a cabin in the woods, and we see Daria. At least I thought it was Diana at first because it's from far away and you never get a close up of her. So, and both of the women have dark hair, and I'm like, I can't really tell the difference on this low quality footage. I don't know who I'm looking at. And she gets attacked by a bunch of guys in the woods, and then Justin suddenly shows up, and there's a big gunfight. And then and then we get them trying to get away with her on a ski-doo.
Yeah, they get on a sea-doo, and I'm like, this isn't they weren't near the water before. This is an odd scene to put in, but it doesn't seem every scene of action has been kind of random. He shows up at a place,
yeah,
someone kidnaps or attacks him or someone he's with, and then he fights them. So I was like, oh, well, I guess he's gonna have a sea battle now. That's odd because he wasn't near the sea, but fine. This is funny. And then we see it was all a dream.
Well, I love when the guy tries to get out. So they do a thing where the guy who was filming him during the initial fake movie thing, he's one of the guys on the jet ski. He does a dive off the dock and knocks that guy into the water and then kills him, and then rockets off after Daria on the jet ski, and then he's like in his sleep in this rundown old gym going, Daria, Daria, Daria. And this wakes up Diana, who then proceeds to have sex with him.
This is what convinces him that he can cross that line. And this is where he takes her shirt off, he's shirtless, and we see her naked back for a bit. And they just they make sure to smush her against him as tight as possible, which is fine. We don't need to see anything in one of these movies. Either way, that weird stripper scene. Yeah. And then we just see him with his giant pants and giant white sneakers on.
And then again, crinkling of paper. Because they're laying on a bag or something.
It's one of those weird scenes where she's a character who's unnecessary and we were given no explanation of her. And she doesn't really play into it from this point on that much anymore. And seeing this movie seems, even though he visits a grave that seems to have been there for decades, it seems to take place over 3 or 4 days at longest.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're at that scene. So he wants Diana to stay where she is, and he goes to Daria's grave, which, again, is just him talking to the back of someone else's headstone because we can see the other person's fucking name on the front of the headstone. It's
so dumb.
It's like Esther Watson on the front, and you're like, well, this is clearly not Daria's grave.
It's so weird to do this, unless that's supposed to be their mother.
Maybe, but you don't do that. I don't think there is a point where you use the same headstone twice. You take it away and you I died and I want to be buried next to my mom. So let's just use the same headstone. Take it with me, take it out of the ground and go and carve it up. Maybe that is how they do it. I don't know, but that seems like something they wouldn't do.
This is a movie, what I was making point of, needs no romantic subplot.
No.
It was utterly unnecessary.
But yeah, as I already mentioned, though, and I have to say it again because it was so funny, is that when he's sitting on the ground next to this headstone, and the headstone's relatively small, it's not a big one, but as he gets up, he puts his weight on it, and the headstone tips forward. He almost knocks over this person's headstone.
Oh, he's a
filming
gigantic
this shitty movie.
He's a gigantic dude. He's at least 270 pounds of pure muscle.
He is a big man. And then we, of course, get a cemetery fight.
Yes, he's attacked at the cemetery. Like I said, there's
they
never
blow up an explosion in a cemetery.
This is where we start getting the explosions, which are all terrible. He gets shot at and the bullets explode. I don't understand what happened there. But this is like my point of there's never a point. The bad guys, when they have their speaking scenes, act like they're trying to find him. But in reality, they're always finding him. He's attacked everywhere.
It would be
endless
something,
amounts of them.
It would be something if like we had a scene where Stevie Watson said like, put out words to all the gangs that we work with and tell them to find this guy.
The mimes, the baseball team, all of them.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, baseball furies and everything. Get them out there looking for this guy.
The stuntmen.
Yes. But yeah, they have a big fight here in the cemetery, which he is easily able to defeat them. And then Justin sneaks into Rick Cooper's place and he finds money hidden behind a map, but not from moving the map out of the way, but from sliding his hand through a slit in a map like it's a game on Price is Right where you got to reach into like a slit and pull a card out. Like it's so strange.
Yeah, I didn't understand why the fuck he did that and why the fuck that existed.
And of course some guys show up and he has to kick their asses.
Oh God. When does he get to the warehouse? Is it soon?
Oh, well, this is about the end because Diana gets kidnapped here.
He said he will take the last scene he had at the cemetery. He basically says, "I'll never let your sister get kidnapped," and she immediately gets kidnapped. And then Rick calls Justin and basically reveals that he's the mastermind behind all this, which he knew, and says, I want you to be somewhere at 3:00. And Stevie Watson has tapped all the phones of people that they've done business with in a particular area. So he knows that Rick is involved now. And so Watson's like, well, we're going to go and just kill everybody at the meeting. He tells this to Espo, and then they click their glasses of iced tea because it's definitely not scotch. This is the point I had to rewind back to. Because this is Stevie Watson's last scene, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
And then when Espo says, "Yesterday I killed my boss," I was like, "Wait, what?" And I was like, I was going through every part of this scene again to try to figure out, did he poison him? When did he kill him? He's a major character.
Yeah, it's just out of the blue, and it makes no narrative sense, which you could say a lot about about a lot of things in this movie.
I was shocked. As shocked as I've been by one of these shitty movies in a long time when he said that, and I had I knew I wasn't paying super close attention because it all kind of runs together, and the whole bunch of scenes came before this were just super crazy, but I was like, I would have remembered that, right? And I had to comb through it. I'm like, hey, even this movie wouldn't have him say that and not shown any of it.
So Justin is prepping for this meeting that he's got with Rick and his goons to get Diana back. And my favorite thing here is that we get to see him struggle in real time to put on a t-shirt.
Which I imagine is a good portion of his life.
It's so strange to see this to him. He puts on, this is his Panther shirt. He puts on the shirt. He kind of struggles with the sleeves a little bit, like tries to get those worked out just right, get the neck just right. Like he's really fussing with it.
I mean, it was very important to this plan that his shirt fit correctly, and he had to wear that shirt, not one of his bigger neck shirts from earlier.
That's right. So he goes to the meeting site, which is like a Wild West stunt show place or something.
This place has turrets.
Yeah. So he's at this
honest to goodness video game gun turrets.
Yeah. It's just an old, like, it looks like an old stunt location. There's a lot of wooden buildings, and it's just very much just kind of a shithole. And they all kind of descend on him and want the money. And he's like, okay, I'm going to show you the money. I'm going to show you the money. And he goes and reaches into the bag, but it's a machine gun. And he just blasts.
He does a half circle with the gun, and everyone goes down. Like, this was his big plan. And this leads to the second funniest scene in the movie besides the face grabbing. So he does this and leaves the bag on the ground. Carlos, who's kind of the second in command, he's the one with the great hair.
Yes, Carlos is his name. That's right.
Yeah, he's up on this higher part of this, Universal Studios stage show set. And this is all shot in real time. Well, Justin goes and fights the other guys, because there's at this point could be no end of themed villains for him to kill. He climbs down the ladder, walks across the ground to where he left the bag where he pulled the gun out of it, because he's hoping that even though it's clearly he pretended to have the money but instead had the gun, he was hoping that in the bag that he left, he also had the money. So he checks his empty bag in the ground, looks inside it to see if the money was also in there. Like he decided, like, I'll put the money in there and a gun instead of just a gun, right? And he looks in the bag, goes, God damn it, puts the bag back down, goes back to the ladder, climbs the ladder, goes across the little walkway and back into the building. It takes a minute.
Just to go inside and tell him that, oh, hey, there's no money.
They took the time. There's so much they leave behind. They took the time to have one of these characters go, I wonder if he was stupid enough to put the money in the bag with the gun. And we had to watch him go all the way to it and all the way back. He wasn't particularly close to it. And he takes his time. He's not like, oh, this dude has an Uzi, I better be careful going over and getting this and double checking it. He just casually walks down and checks. It's so incredible that they left this entire scene in the movie. Why would he ever think that he also had the money in the bag with the gun?
So Rick ties up Diana, and
sexually threatens her.
Yeah, threatens her. Justin runs around, fights a bunch of guys. He gets he
gets one of the turrets.
He gets a 50 cal and just starts blasting a bunch of dudes.
This is some of the worst stunt work you'll ever see for taking a bullet.
This is the moment where I was like, okay, this feels like some kids who got together to make a movie. Like, they got their dad's camcorder and they're like, let's just see what we can do. And then they just started playing. And that's what this feels like. It feels like they're playing.
Yeah, like when they get shot by this 50 caliber, like, bolted to the ground machine gun, they just fall flat backwards. There is no, like, no one bleeds anything. They fall backwards. This is where some of the guys have masks, some don't. One dude shows up and he's unmasked, and he comes at him with a sword and, like, basically looks him Justin right in the face. Is like, this is your last moment. And it's treated like this character who's been in the entire movie, and this is a final showdown between them.
Yeah, we should know who he is. Like, there's a moment where when that guy shows up and does that, I was like, oh, is this someone he knows who's going to be like, hey, I what they're doing is wrong here. Let me help you. And it's like, no, he's just this bad guy who he immediately dispatches, and it means nothing.
Means nothing. And this is when the bad guys start getting themed, because now he'll get into the warehouse. And I want to express, I keep calling it the warehouse because in the middle of this, we see the detectives. And they're told something is going down at the warehouse. And they're in what I assume is Atlanta. And they know exactly that the phrase, the warehouse, means this stunt set in the middle of the woods. Like they have no, like when they're told the warehouse, they know exactly what they're talking about. In the middle of a city that probably has 200,000 warehouses that aren't in the woods. So as he goes into it, each room now has a different video game theme. Because he goes in and there's dudes in full kendo gear, practice gear. Like the pads, the mask, the wooden sticks. Are they expecting to take him out with wooden sticks? Like they're not using like real kendo. If you were using it to kill someone, it isn't a wooden stick. You use a sword. The stick is there for practice, so you don't hurt your opponent as in a sport.
Yeah.
They have the practice sticks, and they're wearing the full gear, full mask, and pads. And then a guy comes in with even fuller pads on. Where the fuck did these people come from? Then another guy comes in doing these shitty flips, and he almost falls every time. And then these martial arts girls fall from the fucking ceiling. And then a guy comes through the wall. It is so bad, and it is incredible. Like every bad idea they had, they left in and put it all in. They just got everyone they know from every dojo and every gym in the area, and they said, "Bring your gear. We're gonna do this." No, it doesn't have to make sense. Just bring your stuff. It just escalates scene to scene at this point, and it makes no sense. None.
No,
and
but it's so good. I mean, it does get a little. I think if anything,
it goes a little too long.
It's a little too long. You probably could have cut a lot of this final action sequence down because a lot of it is very repetitive. Like there's things where he has a grenade, he throws it into a building. We get fireworks shooting out of the building and fake flames, and then that happens again in another scene in another location. Like a lot of these things are very repetitive. Like he blows a guy out of his shoes at one point with a grenade or something. We don't see how that happens.
Is that the one where after Espo kills Cooper, where he tosses the grenade to him and runs away, and the guy goes, "The hell are you doing?" and then blows up.
But yeah, there's a lot of stuff here where you could have like trimmed it down a little bit, but I understand, Troy Ashford's idea here, which is that like I got to get it all on screen. I got to show people what I can do. I got to show them that I'm a real top-notch action star leading man.
This is a real.
Yes. Oh, 100%. It is totally a real. All these pointless fights that go nowhere and they just sort of end when he's knocked out a guy.
And he fights different styles so that we know all the different styles he can fight. And like if this was like a Tower of Doom type thing where he was going through different, like the whole movie was him going through different areas of a supernatural martial arts tower where he would fight different people of different like different kind of martial arts to the whole thing, and it gets crazier and crazier. That'd be one thing. This is supposed to be real, and then these people come down from the fucking ceiling, and they're all supposed to be stunt workers who just are tired of not actually hurting people.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're all dead now.
Yeah, the one of the women he fights towards the end, who comes down from the ceiling. She knocks him out.
How long were they going to wait up there? Because a lot of people died before they tried.
I don't know. She knocks him down and he's bleeding. He's like, "Oh, can't believe a beautiful woman took me out." And she's like, "Believe it." And then she starts fighting. And then he just grabs her and puts her head through a wall.
And then after all this, he now has to fight Cooper, who is just a dude.
Yeah.
He's just this white dude. He's nothing special. He doesn't look like a fighter.
No.
He basically says, "You beat everyone else. Now you have to fight the master."
Now the main event is here.
The main event. Like, okay, I'm the final boss, he basically says.
You look like the dad in a dog movie.
He does. And the whole point in the start of the movie was he's not that good a fighter.
Yeah, like that's the point, is that he's not that good. He gets shown up by this guy who is actually legit and is pissed off about it.
Right. And then he does hold his own for a second with just punching. And then he gets knocked down. He holds his own for like 20 seconds, which is more than most of them get.
Yeah.
And then he gets knocked down. And then Espo comes in.
Yeah.
And he says what a great day he's having. He's got a new girlfriend because he's taken Diane. And he says, I just killed my boss yesterday and I lost my mind. And then he says, like, my boss's last request was to kill this guy, which is Cooper, and he does.
Yeah, he says, I like to follow orders, but I guess Stevie Watson didn't order him not to kill me.
It's amazing that he just drops this yesterday. Like a whole day has passed since he's been dead.
And so Espo kills Rick. He grabs Diana and he leaves these two henchmen to take out Justin, which is silly,
Justin, who's just killed 75 people.
Yeah, we know how this is going to go. So he pulls out a grenade and he's like, I'm going to take us all down. And they fight over who will kill him. The henchmen are like, how do we decide who delivers the killing blow? It's like, this is so stupid. As many fights as we've had where people are just rushing at him with sticks and guns and all kinds of shit. And we have this little comic relief moment at the end where these two bumbling idiots can't decide who's going to kill the guy.
And they just walk through a field of dead bodies.
Yeah, and so he throws the grenade at one of the guys and he dives out the window as they both get blown up. And he has a very lackluster fight with Espo, who is this dude who's listed throughout the credits as Master Jim Renault. And you're like, and he like choreographed all the things, and the fight is so lame and it's pointless. And they fight and he knocks him out. And then the cops show up and they're like, off screen. We kind of dropped the storyline with the other cops, but it doesn't matter because they don't do anything and they get beat up and one of them gets shot and that's it. Like you don't see them anymore. And you hear the cops off screen go, we saw the tape. We know you're innocent. And then he checks on Diana and they walk away and the credits start rolling.
It was in a podcast full of movies that have ended suddenly, not quite as suddenly as Darkman 3.
No.
This was really up there.
Yeah. Like, at least this is your movie. This is you getting to tell this story. You are the co-writer. It's your story. You're the producer, the actor. You're directing this thing. Like, you are involved in all the aspects of this. Give your character a win at the end. Let him go out by either opening up the dojo and training students on how to, how to be a better martial artist, or have a news report where we hear about all this major crime spree that went down, and he's watching television and he gets a call from someone who wants to be his agent and is getting calls about putting him in the next big action movie.
Or have him at a red carpet thing.
Yes, or have it cut forward in time and he's at a red carpet thing like, here comes Justin Sharpe. You know, he's a hot new action star on the scene. You might remember him from last year when he stopped two giant gangs in Atlanta. Like some bullshit. Give
he
your
dedicated
guy
this
a
movie
win.
to his dead friend Charles.
Yes, and his dead girlfriend Daria. He's fucking your sister now though, so it's fine.
They could have and Daria was apparently in in theory, two actors died and half of Atlanta's stunt crew. So like very large amount of people in the business.
Yes.
Who are now dead. But yeah, like anything, but it stops dead. And then this crazy credit music starts.
And we get a lot of the folks all get credited, which is good. I noticed that a couple of folks only get like one name. Like some people don't even get their full name. Like the person who played Daria is just listed as Charity.
That's interesting.
And then there's also a Big Eric who is credited.
I like Big Eric. These people were paid under the table, if at all. Paid
Yeah, they're like,
exposure.
keep my name out of the credits, please.
Keep your name out of my mouth. My name out of your mouth. This movie, it's really bad, but it does hit that kind of level of bad auteur making a movie to make himself look good.
Oh yes, pure vanity project.
Pure vanity project, and it's the inconsistencies, the nonsensicalness, the ending, which is a stunt show. If it was just a bit shorter, like you're this
80 minutes, I think, would suit this movie well. Cut the cops out entirely because you don't need that subplot because it's not necessary, and cut some of the fights at the end, and I think you'd be solid.
If you're going to kill Stevie Watson off camera, just maybe cut one of his scenes where he's telling everybody who's going to kill out. But yeah, like this is one of the ones like I would say like, hey, watch it with your friends and you'll have a good time. But like the first 35 minutes, you might not. And you might wonder what we're talking about. Because like all this stuff with Charles and Justin and like until he gets attacked a few times, but until the attacks are nonstop and completely, I think the Sea-Doos kind of changed just pivots the whole movie.
Yeah.
But like up until that point, it's kind of boring.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a boring movie, like no question. But I'm glad that we watched it because it's so ludicrous, and I'm so happy that I have this movie in my mental Rolodex now. Like when the topic of vanity projects come up, it could be like, oh yeah, you got to watch Razor Sharpe because my God.
Yeah, I wanted to, because the problem with a lot of the really good, bad vanity projects is a lot of podcasts have done that and they've done them all to death. This one has been done by a few shows, but like it's not oversaturated. I'm very glad it is in our show's canon. It really, I think it fits in.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's a fun one. I think. Yeah, I think you're right though. Watch it with some friends who are understanding and aware of what these movies might take to get through, because you really got to have the patience necessary to sort of roll with this thing for the while that it takes to get going. But if you can do that, then you're good.
I mean, if you're a little lubricated by the end when the girls come down from the ceiling, you're ready.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of predictocast. I'm feeling like pumped up. I want to go have a very staticky, shaky workout montage now. I feel like that'll make me feel really good.
I've always kind of feel that way, but I also always kind of feel like I'm on the other end of it without having done it.
Well, until next time, I've been Josh.
I've been Skinner.
And we predict you'll join us.
Our fans are now called human piñatas. That's what I've decided.
If you like the show, subscribe, rate, and review us over at Apple Podcasts. We're on Twitter and Instagram at predictocast, and you can find our entire back catalog at predictocast.com. Our theme music is by Kyle Sledge. Find more of his work at soundcloud.com/geistmusic. As always, thanks for listening.